There are times when normal rules do not apply. That's a quote from Mr. Soros. In researching information regarding HD, one is always amazed at the misinformation and speculation found throughout sources in the press, the internet, interviews, and speeches. Much of the reporting is either left or right of the political spectrum, and this is simply because this is the way HD wanted it to be. He drew very distinct lines between right and wrong in his mind. One could easily argue that he learned that from his father. As this author has stated on a number of occasions, that given the perverse state of affairs in the life of the Schwartz family at the time of HD's birth, one cannot blame anyone until they live through those circumstances of corrupt governance, blatant racism, heavy-handed population controls, persecutions, and ultimately war. These experiences are indelibly marked in one's mind for life. Because of the ability to shape-shift, as taught by HD's father, and given the opportunities to hone one's skills, HD became a master. Clearly, he was special, as indicated by his numerological birth construct, as well as his birth sign. Of course, where the difference became obvious between living through these atrocities and personally witnessing a horrific incident oneself as a young boy is a distinctly different matter. The shock to the system had a profound enough effect on HD that it dramatically altered his life path. And without serious intervention, the young man carried these scars with him throughout his life. He was either incapable or unwilling to change. He enjoyed shape shifting, but especially with his father. Typically, when one has a life-altering event, especially as a young man, perhaps in time, can be overcome. This author has discussed the astrological sign of Leo, under which HD had been born, and although highly intelligent, this sign is also known for having a very thin skin, thus codifying traumatic experiences permanently. Again, these observances are not merely speculative rants, but signposts along one's path that are clearly marked and also reflective of one's historical record of decision-making, as well as one's own spoken words. If you allow losses to affect your judgment, you'll inevitably make bigger mistakes. Another quote from the Mr. Soros. Here, the aforementioned statement is eerily true coming from the lips of H.D. Soros. Perhaps his advice was meant to state, "Do not do as I do." The record does reflect a number of serious losses, but none that HD could not afford. However, since his big wins in the market were tied to karmic malfeasance and intent to harm, one cannot argue that this man has a great record of wins overall. Whatever he attempted to achieve in Ukraine will be erased from the historical record by those who paid the ultimate price for dismantling any of this man's humane acts disguised in philanthropy. As of this writing, ironically and yet not unsurprising, HD had not been accounted for publicly in quite some time. Yes, his funds continue to pay out to certain causes and candidates, but those appear to be under the direction of his sons, Alex and Jonathan Soros, and not the man himself. In April of 2021, monies were contributed to the legalization of marijuana campaigns, as well as reforms of the police based in Austin, Texas. Other accounts of payoffs takes us into the late 2021, but without evidence of their hero. The greatest paradox is that HD provides the funds for specific causes, but he himself resides somewhere in the murky underbrush. Statements made by a variety of sources claim that HD had already left the building, and that any remaining shadow is just that. Many people who believe in HD had every right to do so. However, they must understand that free isn't free, and that there is a greater judge of our actions and words. millions upon millions of dollars cloaked in philanthropy is not always as it seems. One must ask, if the multitude of gifts were so innocent and filled with good intent, why wasn't the donor more available as well as accountable?